Hey guys, what's up? Good afternoon, everybody. It's your guy RGZ. It's gonna be my first YouTube video, and the main purpose of this channel is to react to videos. Pretty much what I'm gonna be doing for you guys: documentary, crimes, freaky things, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm gonna be reacting to. And everybody who's here viewing this right now, thank you very much. Hope that you are doing well. And for this video right here, I'm going to be reacting to top 10 animal scientists wanting to bring back from extinction. So it sounds interesting to me. Hope you guys like it. Hope you guys like the content. And I'm not going to hold you guys up for too much longer. Let's go ahead and get into it.
But wildlife isn't exactly at the top of the list. Once upon a time, however, the Emerald Isle was home to one of the world's largest breeds of deer, the Irish elk.
The fact is, the archaeological record is full of evidence that our ancestors lived alongside and interacted with these giant mammals for millennia. But what happened when they did interact, when humans met this megafauna? Did we perhaps love them to death? Or is it possible that the megaloceros simply lived too large?
Though their remains have been found in the bogs of Ireland, this impressive creature's habitat extended to Siberia. Also referred to as the giant deer, they're thought to have gone extinct roughly 7,000 to 8,000 years ago.
The demise of the megaloceros seems to be ultimately about timing. During their heyday in the Pleistocene epoch, they thrived in extremely cold environments, often living through periods of glaciation followed by slight warming. But in the late Pleistocene, as the climate started to change, megaloceros populations became increasingly restricted to modern-day Russia.
And though experts say their numbers were likely always low, well-preserved remains are discovered fairly regularly, making the Irish elk a solid candidate for resurrection via cloning. Number 9. The gastric brooding frog. Well, that name is certainly a mouthful. And mouthfuls are something this species was all too familiar with before their extinction in the 1980s. You know how little kids will often describe pregnant women as having a baby in their tummy? Well, with the gastric brooding frogs, the sentence applies literally.
This frog swallowed its fertilized eggs.
The females of this remarkable species swallow the fertilized eggs, which, over the course of 6 weeks or so, hatch into tadpoles and develop into little frogs, all in the mother's stomach. Sadly, this species collapsed under the stress of pollution and habitat loss, among other factors.
We've lost a whole family. That's a big chunk of the global genome gone. I'd like it back. The second reason is that we killed these things.
But given that this was a recent extinction, somatic cell nuclear transfer cloning seems promising. Researchers have managed to successfully clone embryos, suggesting that full-grown frogs are not too far off.
What we did is something called somatic cell nuclear transplantation. We took the eggs of a related species, a living frog, and we inactivated the nucleus of the egg. We used ultraviolet radiation to do that. And then we took the dead nucleus from the dead tissue of the extinct frog, and we inserted those nuclei into that egg.
It's crazy what the kind of things that we can do. You know, technology has definitely involved.
Working on it. What's
Definitely
taking?
has, you know. Ooh, what the fuck?
Number 8. The stellar sea cow. Just look at these adorable creatures.
This lumbering mass of a marine mammal is the manatee. 3 species of manatee exist and can be found in coastal waters and rivers.
Don't you think they deserve a second chance? Closely related to
What the
manatees
heck?
and dugongs, these peaceful creatures, which could measure up to 30 feet in length, were sadly hunted to the point of extinction. There have been alleged sightings as recently as the 1960s, but most people agree with the declaration of extinction that was made in 1768, just 27 years after Europeans took notice of them. With aquatic animals, the likelihood of finding preserved specimens is
Sorry about
unfortunately
squeaky.
next to
I'm trying
zero.
to
But hope isn't altogether
not move too
lost.
much.
Given the close genetic similarities between dugongs and stellar sea cow, researchers believe they might be able
Thing
to
is ugly,
resurrect
man.
the latter by reverse engineering the genetics of the former.
A major part of the conservation area is a marine protected area in the region with the densest population of dugongs.
Number 7. The Baiji. Speaking of aquatic creatures who deserved better, how about this more recent
Seen
tragedy?
something like that
Smaller
before.
than their saltwater relative, but no less intelligent or playful,
Thing's got a long
Baiji
ass
dolphins were
mouth.
one of 5 known species of river dolphins found around the world.
The Baiji was the only member of an entire mammal family. It diverged from all other whales and dolphins over 20 million years ago.
Thousands of them reportedly used to swim in the Yangtze River. They even had a place in Chinese folklore and were collectively thought of as a goddess of protection among those who made their living on the water.
The baiji was one of the world's few true river dolphin species. It had very highly developed sonar and very reduced vision because the Yangtze is very murky and full of sediments.
Unfortunately, the population went into sharp decline with China's industrialization. Preservation efforts were made in 2001, but it was too late.
The first dolphin surveys in China were conducted in the late 70s and early 80s, and by this stage already the population had fallen to only around 400 animals. By the end of the 20th century, there were possibly only 13 wild dolphins left in the Yangtze.
Given how recently the extinction occurred, however, baiji could prove a viable candidate for resurrection via a number of methods. Number 6. The Didacurus. We might not be able to resurrect the Ankylosaurus anytime soon, but we'd settle for a Didacurus. This impressive creature is estimated to have gone extinct 7.
You know, with dinosaurs, I mean, it would definitely, you know, be amazing to witness one, and touch it in person. You know, when they if they, you know, do resurrect them. But I mean, we have no idea basically how you know, some of these dinosaurs will react, you know, to human beings, and we're gonna have to keep them basically in an environment away from people, because most likely, I'm guessing so, these animals will try to kill us, and probably so I'll get extinct basically.
8,000 years ago. Like its fellow creatures,
I mean,
of the
it's awesome though.
Didacurus was built to live in a tough environment. Its closest living relative is the armadillo, but Didacurus
give an opportunity to touch it, I would most definitely will.
Substantial margin.
These are ancient relatives of the armadillo, yet they weigh almost 300 times as much.
It's estimated that they weighed an average of 3,100 pounds and measured just shy of 5 feet in height and 12 feet in length.
Their spiked tail clubs alone can weigh 40 kilos,
they're definitely
as
not
much
small.
as a cannonball.
It'd take quite a bit of effort to resurrect this ancient armored mammal, but hope persists of finding remains in a cool, dry area where the elements may have preserved usable genetic material.
And I know, like recently, you know, they just killed the last albino rhino, I believe it was. It was something though, you know. But I mean, like, if these animals were to be resurrected and then let go out to live whatever it wants to live, how, you know, man, people were gonna kill them things, you know, because their like skin, or like their shells or whatever, you know, would be pricey. I'm guessing so. You know, so it's something to think about.
1976.
Because then they're always just gonna probably get killed again.
South Island, forestry workers discovered a portal into New Zealand's ancient past.
Though lizards might look like the closest living ancestor to dinosaurs, that honor actually goes to various types of birds, including chickens.
Oh no.
And so, with that fact in mind, the moa begins to seem like a solid stepping stone along our never-ending quest to make Jurassic Park a reality.
Come on. Come on, little one, come on.
Just seen the new one.
Come on,
so
then. Come on, then.
It wasn't that bad.
Very good push.
The term moa actually encapsulates 9 known species of large flightless birds that once roamed modern-day New Zealand. The
Basically
largest among them, Dinornis novae zelandii and Dinornis robustus, could reach heights of 12 feet when they fully extend their necks.
3,000 years ago, in the leafy green forests of New Zealand,
Dang, it's the
big beady eyes of a giant locked onto what would be its final meal. The giant in this case was a North Island giant moa, a bird that stood 3 meters tall, and its quarry was a tasty fern.
That's a full 3 feet taller than the largest ostrich. Given that it only died out several hundred years ago and DNA is readily available, the moa is considered a top contender for de-extinction. Number 4. The thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian tiger. Native to Australia,
Man, they made a good
Tasmania,
movie about
and New
that
Guinea,
too.
This eye-catching marsupial was only declared extinct in 1936, when the last known thylacine, Benjamin, died in captivity. Although there has been the occasional alleged sighting in years since.
The thylacine looks a bit to most people like a dog, or maybe like a tiger because it has stripes, but it's not related to any of those. It's a marsupial.
But given that they were scarce even before the arrival of the British, even if a few Tasmanian tigers did manage to survive in the wild, their numbers were clearly too low for successful recovery.
Then, unfortunately, the next sad part of the thylacine story is that Europeans arrived in 1788.
De-extinction efforts began in 2008, and in 2017, researchers completed a full nuclear genome. At the current rate, thylacines could live again as early as 2027.
We would hope that we'll be able to get that DNA back into a viable form.
Seems like it could
and then,
probably
much like we've done with the Lazarus Project, get that stuff into an egg of a host species. Has to be a different species. What could it be? Why couldn't it be a Tasmanian?
Join large-scale battles with military vehicles. The online action game War Thunder has received a major update. Direct Hit. Join
Tasmanian devil.
Number 3, the saber-toothed cat. Fans of the Ice Age franchise, this one's for you.
You don't need this aggravation. Give me the baby. I can track humans down a lot faster than you can.
But if we do manage to resurrect the saber-toothed tiger, please don't trust it to babysit your infant child.
I've eaten things that didn't complain this much.
Also known as the Smilodon, this prehistoric mammal was a fearsome predator during the Pleistocene epoch. Like so many of its contemporaries, however, it went the way of the dinosaurs. We can't say with certainty why it died out, but all signs point to the scarcity of big game resulting from climate change.
But how could changing vegetation be linked to the extinction of a carnivore like the saber-tooth? While the change didn't affect the female and her cubs directly, it did affect their food supply in vital ways.
It died out some 10,000 years ago as part of the Quaternary extinction event. But if sufficient DNA is found, it could return to the hunt. Speaking of big cats, Caspian tigers and the American lion are both potential candidates as well. Number 2, the dodo. Ancient armadillos the size of small cars, ferocious predators, 12-foot-tall birds, a lot of these resurrection contenders come with a notable intimidation factor.
Now don't fall in! If you do, you will definitely... Intruders! Burn and die.
They're the sort of animals you'd be terrified to hear had escaped their enclosures. The dodo, on the other hand, is kind of an ideal choice. Not only is this flightless bird non-threatening, but it famously also had almost no fear of humans.
In Dutch art, the dodo is portrayed as a fat, clumsy, absurd species.
Wait, I don't think that bird could fly either.
It often appeared in fantastical landscapes, such as this one of Orpheus taming animals with his lute.
Just walked on land.
It'd become a mythical species on par with the griffin and phoenix.
And though this might come as a surprise, it's not hard to source the necessary genetic materials for dodos. The genome has already been sequenced, and it's got a close relative in the Nicobar pigeon to help with the cloning process. If there's one creature you should bet on making a comeback, it's the dodo bird.
The dodo has this kind of aura about it.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. The Pyrenean ibex. The giant short-faced bear. Aurochs. The quagga. The passenger pigeon.
Passenger pigeon, wonder why they call it that.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified. Number 1, woolly mammoths.
Yes, sir.
You have beautiful eyes.
I know one of them had to be on the list.
This really feels like the holy grail of potential resurrections.
Woolly mammoths roamed the planet for about 250,000 years. The last holdouts vanished from Siberia about 10,000 years ago.
The idea of being able to see a woolly mammoth on safari in a wildlife preserve is like something right out of a sci-fi novel. Most current efforts focus on creating elephant-mammoth hybrids, but as with many of the entries on our list, this raises considerable ethical dilemmas due to questionable prospects for survival. Nonetheless, the necessary material is there.
And one of their biggest goals? Bringing back the prehistoric woolly mammoth from the flesh of perfectly preserved specimens buried in northern Siberia.
In 2013, a nearly complete 40,000-year-old mammoth, now named Buttercup, was found frozen in the New Siberia Islands. This specimen was even able to offer up blood samples, which scientists are confident can be used to source living cells. As if that's not exciting enough, There's similar potential for the woolly rhinoceros.
The deep snow is a particular problem for the woolly rhinoceros.
I heard about that. They were supposed to get this particular animal back.
This young female is desperately searching for food.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from Watch Mojo, and be sure to.
Yeah, though, so that's pretty much it for this video. So just again, you know, everybody who viewed, you know, this first video of mine, you know, appreciate you. Hope you have a good week.